My fiancé called off our engagement and then acted stunned when I told her to move out and gave her the ring back. Honestly, I don't even know where to begin with this mess. One minute everything seemed fine, and the next, Tessa, my ex-fiancée, decided she was done with me completely out of the blue. I'm still sitting here trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our rough patches, but who doesn't? We'd been together for 6 years, talking wedding plans, building a life, and then just like that she hits me with, "I think we should break up." No build-up, no big fight. Just that. And why? Because of my job. Yep, you heard that right. She broke things off because of where I work at my family's restaurant. Now, I'm not saying the schedule's perfect. I've got odd hours. I usually start in the evenings, and by the time I'm done, she's already been off work for a few hours. But this wasn't some new revelation. She's known my schedule from day one. Even before we got engaged, she was fully aware that I worked evenings. My shifts run Tuesday through Thursday, usually from around 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. and a bit later on Fridays and Saturdays. But it's not like I was never around. We had Sundays, some mornings together, and most Saturdays before I had to head in. I didn't think it was that big of an issue. Tessa, on the other hand, started acting like we were living on opposite sides of the world. She began saying we barely saw each other and that I needed to get a new job. Said she was tired of being alone every night waiting for me to get home. She works 8:30 to 7, so yeah, she's done way earlier than me, but come on, we made it work, or at least I thought we were. At one point, I even suggested she come work at the restaurant with me. I figured it was a decent plan. We'd spend more time together, she'd stay busy, and we'd stack up more money for the wedding. But she shot that down in a heartbeat. Said she felt weird working for my parents. Fine. I didn't want to push her into something she wasn't comfortable with. Still, it didn't stop the complaints. Every couple of weeks, she'd circle back with, "So when are you getting a better job?" Or, "I don't think this is sustainable long-term." It got to the point where I was ready to scream. Like, how many times do I have to say that I'm happy where I'm at? I love what I do. The restaurant's been in my family for generations. Sure, the hours can be long, but it's something I take pride in. Then one night, she sits me down and says, "Miles, I can't keep doing this." At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. But no, she was dead serious. She said unless I changed jobs, she couldn't see us getting married. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. I tried to reason with her, said we could figure something out, maybe adjust things a little, but she wasn't open to any of it. She said she needed more from me, more time, more energy, more focus on our future. Whatever that meant. I told her I was already giving everything I had. We were literally planning a wedding. If that's not commitment, I don't know what is. What cut deep was her saying it felt like I didn't care enough about her needs. That hit hard. Because while she was complaining, I was out there working double shifts to save for our future. I wasn't out partying. I wasn't neglecting her. I was showing up for us. Apparently, none of that mattered. Then came the classic, "Maybe we should just be friends." Like that was supposed to soften the blow. And the worst part? There wasn't even a fight. No screaming. No throwing things. Just her sitting there, calm as could be, like she'd been practicing this breakup speech in her head for days. I asked her point blank, "You really want to toss everything away over my job?" And she had the audacity to say, "It's not just the job. It's that you're not willing to change for us." That's when I lost it. I reminded her she knew my schedule before we even got engaged. If it was such a deal breaker, why the hell did she say yes to the ring? She got all defensive and said she thought I'd grow out of it. Like working at my family's business was some teenage phase I was supposed to outgrow. I won't lie, that stung. It felt like she'd been waiting for me to turn into some fantasy version of a man she'd made up in her head. And when I didn't, she bailed. After that talk, I couldn't even look at her. I started staying late at work just to avoid going home. The last thing I wanted was to sit in the same house with someone who'd basically given up on me. But here's the kicker, she didn't move out. I figured if you end a serious relationship, especially an engagement, you'd at least start packing. But no. She stuck around like nothing had changed. Every night I'd come home, and there she was lounging on the couch, watching Netflix, acting like everything was peachy. It made my skin crawl. How could she just sit there like that, pretending it was business as usual after dumping me? Eventually, I had enough. One night I looked her in the eye and said, "Tessa, you need to find somewhere else to stay. We're not together, and this setup isn't working anymore." She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Are you serious? You're kicking me out?" she asked. I said, "Yeah, I am. We're not planning a wedding anymore, so what's the point of living under the same roof?" She tried to guilt-trip me, said she had nowhere else to go and that I was being cruel. I told her she could stay with her parents while she figured things out. And then I asked for the ring back. You'd think I slapped her across the face. She flipped out. Said it was hers, that I had no right to ask for it back. I calmly told her that ring was for our future together. Since that's not happening, I want it back. She called me greedy. Said if I really loved her, I'd just let her keep it, that I was being a jerk for kicking her out after everything we'd been through. At that point, I was over it. No more arguing. No more back and forth. I just wanted her gone. But she didn't leave. Not right away. She lingered like she was waiting for me to change my mind or something. I thought maybe she needed a few days to figure things out, but she had plenty of options. Her folks live nearby and she's got friends she could stay with. Still, she stayed put. And I'm telling you, those few days after the breakup were the most uncomfortable stretch of my entire life. It felt like we were three complete strangers just sharing a roof. She'd be planted on one end of the room, I'd sit on the other, and this heavy, awkward silence just hung in the air between us. Neither of us wanted to be the first to break it. I'd come home from the restaurant and find her already there, doing her own thing, watching TV, scrolling on her phone, but the room felt thick with tension. It was like there was this invisible wall between us and neither of us had the guts to tear it down. But then it went from tense to straight up bizarre. One afternoon I get home and there's Tessa sitting at the kitchen table with my mom. Yeah, my mom. No warning, no heads up. I just walk into the house and see the three of them sipping coffee like it's a Sunday brunch and nothing's wrong. I was stunned. My mom looks up and says, "Miles, we need to talk." Just like that. Now, I love my mom, but I was already irritated. Still, I tried to stay composed. I sit down and Tessa jumps in, laying out her side of the breakup like we're airing this out on some talk show. She tells my mom she doesn't have anywhere to go and that I'm heartless for asking her to leave so soon after we split. And of course, my mom, being the kind soul she is, starts suggesting we find a solution. Maybe Tessa could stick around a little longer just until she sorts things out. I sat there stunned, trying not to lose it. Like, really? I looked at them both and said, "Mom, we broke up. We're not together anymore. Why should she still be living here?" But my mom, always the peacemaker, says she just needs a bit of time. It's not that easy to just move out. Sure, I get that moving sucks. But I wasn't kicking her out the same day she ended things. It had been almost a week. I turned to Tessa and said, "You've had time. You need to go." And boom, she turns on the waterworks. She starts crying, saying she thought I was better than this. That she didn't expect me to treat her like garbage. Right in front of my mom. I swear, she was trying to paint me as the villain in my own house. My mom, bless her, tries to calm it all down. "Miles, just think about it. You three were together for a long time. It's not easy to just throw that away." And I'm sitting there, floored. My own mom was taking Tessa's side. I love her, but this wasn't her decision to make. So I told her straight, "Mom, I love you, but this isn't your place. Tessa and I are over. She needs to move out." That's when Tessa hits me with the classic guilt trip. Looks me dead in the eyes and says, "If you ever really loved me, you wouldn't be doing this. I thought you cared." And damn, that hit deep. I didn't want to be the bad guy here. But seriously, how long was I supposed to let this go on? She's the one who broke it off. Now suddenly I'm the bad guy for not wanting to play house with my ex? I held my ground. Told her, "I do care, but we're done. This isn't your home anymore. It's time to move on." She stormed out of the kitchen and my mom just sat there looking at me like I'd kicked a puppy. She gave me this sad look and said, "I just hope you're doing the right thing." That stuck with me for a bit. Made me wonder, was I being too cold? Should I have let her stay longer? But then I remembered how she kept dragging things out, acting like we were still some happy couple while I walked on eggshells in my own damn house. That's when I knew I wasn't in the wrong. This was my home. I wasn't going to let her play the victim while turning my life into a soap opera. The next day, I get home and she's not there. Her stuff's still in the house, but she's gone. At first, I actually felt relieved, like maybe she finally got the message. But nope. Just another performance. She strolled in later that night, cool as ever, didn't say a word. Just walked past me and shut the bedroom door like we were still living together. Like nothing had changed. That was the last straw. I couldn't take it anymore. I texted her that night and told her flat out she had until the end of the week to pack her things and move out. Otherwise, I was starting the eviction process. I know that sounds harsh, but what choice did I have? She wasn't listening, wasn't taking any of it seriously, and I wasn't about to live another week inside that circus. And of course, she replies with a guilt trip in text form, "I can't believe you're being like this. I thought we could at least be friends. You're treating me like I'm a stranger." That's when it hit me. She was never planning to leave, not unless I forced it. She was playing me, trying to drag things out long enough that maybe I'd cave. Maybe I'd say sorry, beg her to stay. But I wasn't falling for it. Not after everything she'd pulled. By the end of the week, she finally started packing. And man, it turned into a whole dramatic production. Every time she picked up a box, she'd sigh loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Like she wanted me to feel guilty or something. But I didn't. I mean, I was sad about how things ended, but not sad enough to let her keep squatting in my house just because moving was inconvenient. And then the ring. The damn ring. I thought we'd settled that, but no. She brings it up again, saying, "I can't believe you actually want the ring back. You know I loved you, right?" This time, I didn't even argue. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "We're not getting married. That ring was for a wedding. No wedding, no ring." She gave me this look like I just betrayed her all over again. But she finally handed it over. And I swear, the moment she gave it back, it was like 100 pounds lifted off my chest. That was the last piece. The final tie. And now that she's gone, it's been a few days, and honestly, I feel better than I've felt in months. Yeah, it's strange not having her around. But it's also a relief. I don't have to tiptoe around anymore. I don't have to listen to her guilt trips or deal with that constant pressure. Do I miss her? A little. But not enough to go back to all that chaos. Sometimes things need to end. And dragging them out only makes the crash harder. Update 1. So after she finally packed up and left, I figured that was it. Clean break. I'd have a couple of quiet days to myself, get back to some sense of normal. But man, I was wrong. First off, I didn't realize just how much stuff she left behind. It was like she'd planted a little reminder of herself in every damn room. Clothes, books, random junk, her toothbrush was still in the bathroom, for crying out loud. At first, I didn't touch any of it. I figured maybe she'd swing by to grab the rest. But after a couple of days passed, I was like, alright, this is getting ridiculous. So I started boxing her stuff up myself. I figured I'd just box up her stuff, drop it off at her parents' place, and call it done. Simple, clean, over with. But while I was sorting through her things, I stumbled on something that stopped me cold. There was this notebook tucked in the back of one of her drawers, looked like the kind someone keeps private. Now look, I'm not usually the type to snoop. That's not me. But come on, she left it behind. So yeah, I opened it. And what I found? Man, it hit me hard. It was basically a journal. A running list of all her issues with me, our relationship, everything. Page after page of stuff like, Miles doesn't listen, he doesn't care how I feel, why can't he just have a normal job like other guys? It was brutal. Reading it was like getting punched in the chest over and over again. I mean, sure, no relationship is perfect, I knew that. But I never realized she felt this deeply unhappy. And what really tore me up was seeing where she wrote that she'd been planning to end things for months, just waiting for the right time. What even is the right time to blow up someone's life? So while she was still here, pretending everything was fine, smiling, sharing meals, sleeping in the same bed, she was already halfway out the door in her head. That realization crushed me. I sat there, notebook in my hands, just stuck. Reading those pages felt like watching a slow-motion collapse I hadn't even known was happening. It wasn't just the job hours or scheduling differences. It wasn't some argument that spiraled. She'd emotionally checked out long before she walked away, and I had no idea. I sat with that for a long time. Just thinking. Wondering if I'd missed all the signs. Wondering how blind I'd been. And then it hit me, she never really wanted me. She wanted the version of me she'd created in her head. Some guy who worked a 10 to 3, wore button-ups to work, maybe brought home a briefcase instead of restaurant receipts. She didn't want me, Miles. She wanted someone she could mold. And when I didn't turn into that guy, she pulled the plug. I put the notebook away and tried to shake it off. Turned on the TV, scrolled through my phone, anything to drown out the noise in my head. But I couldn't stop hearing her words. Couldn't stop picturing those pages. That's the thing about breakups, they mess with your mind. You start replaying every moment. Every I love you, every kiss, every argument. And you start wondering, was any of it real? Did it mean the same thing to her that it meant to me? A few days went by. Then out of nowhere, I get a text from Tessa. I hadn't heard a peep since she left, so it threw me off. And no, it wasn't some heartfelt message or attempt to talk through things. She just wanted to swing by and pick up the rest of her stuff. Just like that. She'd been gone over a week and now she wanted to come back for her things? Fine. I told her she could come, but I asked her to give me a heads up first. Last thing I needed was her walking in while I was halfway through dinner or something. So she shows up. And man, the vibe was weird. She barely looked at me. Just walked in, quiet, grabbed her things like she was in a rush to get out of a stranger's house. I stood there in the living room, hands in my pockets, trying to play it cool, but it felt off. So off. This woman and I had shared a life. We had wedding plans. We'd built routines, memories, habits. And now it felt like she was just some stranger collecting her boxes and disappearing for good. Then, right before she finished up, she stopped. Looked at me. It was the first real eye contact we'd made in days. And for a second, she just stood there like she had something on the tip of her tongue but couldn't bring herself to say it. I don't know what came over me, but I asked, "Are you okay?" She looked at me, eyes kind of glassy, and said something I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. I didn't want it to end like this. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? It had ended like this. We were past the point of repair. We'd already crossed that line. I just stood there frozen while she looked at me like I was supposed to fix it all. But how do you fix something that's been breaking for months, maybe longer, and you never even saw it? She picked up the last of her stuff, didn't say another word, and left. The door clicked shut, and just like that she was gone. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even cry. It was more like this heavy mix of relief and sadness. Like I knew it had to end, but still wasn't totally ready for it. After she left, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a therapist. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I couldn't stop wondering, was there something wrong with me? Did I miss something huge? Was I just not built for this whole, forever thing? I didn't know what I was hoping to get out of it. I just knew I needed to talk to someone who wasn't in the middle of the mess. And honestly, it helped. The therapist didn't give me a step-by-step guide to healing, but she did help me see that not everything was on me. That relationships are a three-way street. That for every mistake I made, and yeah, I made plenty, Tessa made her own too. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't the villain either. One thing she said stuck with me: sometimes people fall in love with the idea of a person, not who they really are. And man, that hit me like a truck. That's what happened with Tessa. She was in love with potential. With the guy she wanted me to become. Not the man I actually am. So now, a couple months out, I'm not gonna say I'm thriving. But I'm okay. Better than I was. I still think about her sometimes. Still catch myself wondering what could have been if things had gone differently. But the truth is, if she had stayed, it probably would have just gotten worse. We weren't meant to last, and that's okay. Sometimes things fall apart for a reason. And yeah, it sucks. It hurts like hell. But it's better than living a lie or forcing something that was never really working. Update 2. After Tessa moved out for good, I figured that was it. Curtain closed. End of story. But nope. Turns out the drama wasn't quite done yet. I didn't realize how many loose ends were still hanging out there until I started hearing from mutual friends. At first, it was subtle. Just a text here and there, "Hey man, how've you been?" Casual check-ins. But then they started sliding in little side comments. Stuff like, "Tessa said she's really struggling," or, "Have you talked to her at all?" At first, I just brushed it off. At first, I figured people were just checking in. Being polite, you know? Feeling out where I stood after the breakup. But then the tone of those messages started to shift. Suddenly, it felt like folks were talking to me like I'd blindsided Tessa. Like I'd thrown her out without a second thought. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, did she not tell anyone that she's the one who ended it? Apparently not. Before I knew it, I was getting these long, guilt-drenched texts from her friends. Some I barely even knew. Calling me heartless for making her move out. Accusing me of being cold for asking for the ring back. Seriously? She walked away from me. She called it off. What was I supposed to do? Keep pretending we were fine while she told everyone I was the villain. But that's what she was doing. Telling people I didn't care, that I gave up. Meanwhile, she's out here playing the heartbroken victim. It blew my mind how fast people flipped the narrative. I found myself constantly explaining the real story, and every time I had to go through it, I felt more drained. Like, why did I even have to defend myself? Couple weeks passed. The texts slowed down. The noise faded. I thought, finally, maybe this drama storm was blowing over. But of course, peace didn't last long. One night, I'm home on the couch after a long shift at the restaurant, just trying to unwind, and my phone buzzes. It's a message from Brooke, Tessa's best friend. Now, Brooke and I, we were never tight. She always had something to say, always in Tessa's ear stirring things up. So when I saw her name pop up, I already knew it wasn't going to be good. And I was right. She sent me a wall of text. She went on and on about how Tessa was devastated. How I broke her heart by not fighting harder for the relationship. She actually had the nerve to say, "You're supposed to be a team, and you just gave up on her." I was so fired up I could barely type, but I kept it short. I told her, Tessa ended things. She's the one who wanted out. I'm not going to beg someone to stay who already walked away. But Brooke didn't stop. She kept texting, trying to guilt me into reaching out. Said Tessa just needed more time. Said maybe if I called her, things could be different. I wasn't having it. I shot back. We're done. It's over. Time to let it go. That was the last I heard from her. For a while, at least. Then, a few days later, I'm slammed during the dinner rush at the restaurant when my mom walks over with that look on her face. You know, the one. That we need to talk look moms have when they're about to drop something heavy. She pulls me aside and says, Miles, I talked to Tessa today. I just stared at her. Why? She tells me Tessa called. Said she wanted to apologize for how things ended. Said she just wanted to check in. Now, when your ex calls your mom to check in, that's not just weird. It's a red flag the size of a billboard. I told her, look, I don't care if she's sorry. We're done. There's no reason for her to be calling you. My mom gave a little sigh, like she was torn. I know, she said. But she seemed really upset. She said she feels like you hate her now and didn't want things to end like this. Here we go again. So I had to explain everything. Again, how Tessa ended it. How she twisted the story. How I just wanted to move on and be left alone. Eventually, my mom understood. She agreed not to get involved anymore. But honestly, it bugged me that I even had to have that conversation in the first place. After that, things finally started to chill out. Brooke stopped texting, Tessa quit calling my mom, and for once, I could breathe again. I got back into a rhythm. Hanging with friends, grabbing drinks after work, just enjoying being me again. But, because there's always a but, just when I thought things were finally settling, life tossed me another curveball. One night I was out at a bar with a few buddies, just blowing off steam, when my friend Zach pulled me aside. He looked kind of awkward, like he didn't want to say what he was about to say. He goes, hey man, I don't know if you want to hear this, but I saw Tessa the other day. She was with some guy. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect to feel anything. I mean, we were done. But hearing she'd already moved on, yeah, that stung more than I thought it would. I asked, who was he? Zach just shrugged, said he didn't know, but that they seemed close. That was all it took. I didn't reach out to her or anything, but for the next few days, my mind kept circling back to it. Not because I wanted her back, but because it made everything feel so final. It was like the last nail in the coffin. She was moving on, and I guess that meant it was time for me to really do the same. Looking back, I can see it now. Tessa had checked out a long time ago. That's probably why it all felt so sudden to me when it happened. Because it wasn't sudden for her. She'd already made peace with the breakup. I just hadn't caught up yet. It took me a while to face that truth. It's hard realizing that someone you cared about had already stopped caring long before you knew. But you know what? It's okay. We were meant to be. Trying to force it would have just dragged us both down. So now I'm focused on me. Not looking to date, not interested in any of that. Just keeping it simple. Spending time with my friends. Throwing myself into work. Rebuilding my own life on my terms. As for Tessa, I honestly wish her well. I mean that. But I'm done with the guilt trips, the emotional games, the drama. I'm done with being the guy people point fingers at for something I didn't break. I'm finally moving forward. Update 3. So here we are months later, and I'm finally in a place where I can say I'm okay. It's been a roller coaster, no doubt about that, but I've made it through. Things were actually starting to feel normal again. And then, of course, life threw one more surprise my way. I was at work, just doing my usual thing, when one of our regulars walks in, Walter. Older guy. Real friendly. He's been coming to the restaurant for years and always chats with my folks whenever he's in. But this time, Walter walked in with this weird look on his face. So Walter pulls me aside and he says, hey, Miles, I saw Tessa the other night. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay. People see Tessa around. Nothing shocking about that anymore. But then he drops a bomb. She was with your cousin, Logan. I swear, my brain just shut down for a second. I stared at him, waiting for him to laugh and say he was joking. But he didn't. Wait, Logan? I asked. My cousin, Logan? We grew up together. That guy's basically my brother. There's no way he'd be hanging out with my ex-fiancée. Right? Walter wasn't joking. He says, yeah man. They were at that new bar downtown. Looked pretty close, if you know what I mean. I didn't even know how to respond. A part of me refused to believe it. But another part, the one that had been through months of disappointment, knew it wasn't that far-fetched. I laughed it off in front of Walter. Played it cool. Said I'd look into it. But inside I was fuming. Why would Logan, of all people, be out with Tessa? And why hadn't anyone said a word to me? So that night I did what anyone would do. I texted Logan. Tried to keep it chill. Didn't want to come at him all accusatory, so I said, "Hey man, heard you were out with Tessa. What's going on there?" Took him a while to answer. Long enough for my thoughts to spiral. And when he finally replied, it made my blood boil. "Yeah," he wrote. "We've been hanging out a little. I didn't tell you because I figured it'd be awkward." Awkward? That's what he calls it? Awkward? My own cousin sneaking around with my ex behind my back, and he chalks it up to things being a little awkward? I lost it. I fired back, "Are you serious right now? You couldn't even give me a heads up." He tried to downplay it. Said it wasn't a big deal. That they were just friends. "Nothing serious," he said. Yeah, right? We all know what just friends means in that kind of situation. I told him flat out I felt betrayed. And not just a little. He started backpedaling, said they just ran into each other one night and started talking, and things sort of happened. Apparently, they'd been in contact for a few weeks now. Weeks? I just sat with that. Let it sink in. It wasn't about Tessa anymore. It was about family. About someone I trusted. Someone who knew what I'd been through, who should have had my back. Instead, he crossed a line I didn't even think he'd get near. A few days later, Tessa texted me. No warm-up. No small talk. Just, "Hey, I heard you're upset about me and Logan. Can we talk?" I didn't want to talk. Didn't want her apologies or justifications. But something in me needed closure. I needed to hear it from her, why she thought this was okay. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet up. We picked a coffee shop we used to go to all the time when we were together. Big mistake. Just walking in there felt like stepping into the past. She sat down and immediately launched into this long speech, how she never meant to hurt me, how she and Logan just clicked, how she hoped things wouldn't be weird between us. I sat there, trying to hold it together, but every word just made me want to get up and leave. I told her, this isn't about you and Logan clicking. It's about respect. You broke things off with me. And now you're with my cousin? You didn't stop to think that might be a problem. She gave me the usual line, I didn't plan for this to happen, I didn't want to hurt you, but I wasn't buying it. I told her straight up, you made your choice. You don't get to walk back into my life and pretend this is all okay. The conversation went nowhere. She kept trying to explain. I kept shutting it down. Eventually, we both walked out more frustrated than when we came in. But at least I said what I needed to say. After that, I blocked her number. I didn't want anything more to do with her. Logan called a few days later, wanting to talk. I let him speak. I let him apologize. But I didn't hold back. I told him he shattered my trust. That family's supposed to mean something. That you don't just slide into your cousin's ex's life like it's no big deal. He kept saying he didn't mean for things to get messy. That he didn't know how to stop it once it started. But I wasn't ready to forgive him. Some lines, once you cross them, you can't just step back over. Since then, I've kept my distance. From both of them. Logan still sends the occasional text, checking in, trying to patch things up. I haven't answered. Maybe one day I'll get over it. But that day isn't now. I need space. I need time. As for Tessa, she's out of my life completely. I don't know if she and Logan are still a thing, and to be honest, I don't care. They can do whatever they want. I'm done. Looking back, this whole ordeal taught me a lot, not just about relationships, but about people. You think you know someone. You trust them. You picture them being part of your life forever. And then they turn around and prove you wrong. It messes with your head, sure. But eventually you have to stop replaying it and start rebuilding. Because you can't control what people do. You can only control how you react. And right now, my reaction is to walk away. To move forward. I've got a life to build. Goals to chase. Peace to protect. And I'm not letting drama, especially this kind, pull me back anymore.